Hello, welcome to Board Game Geekery. My name's Carl and this is how you play Forbidden Sky Heights of Danger. Now for a bit of background information, if you're not familiar with the series, this is the third game in the Forbidden series of cooperative adventures. I strongly recommend, if you've never played any of them, that you start with Forbidden Island. It's a much easier game, will give you a chance to learn the gameplay mechanics so that you can get ready for the real challenge. So the key difference between Forbidden Sky and the other games in the Forbidden series is that this time you won't have a pre-built map to start out with. Instead, you have a starting grid and the responsibility is on you as the player to build the map as you progress. We'll get to how you do that in a second. But to begin with, you want to start out with something that looks like this. So all the components are in place. You have your starting grid with the landing platform where your heroes will appear. You have this wind chime here that determines the direction the storm is blowing in. That can change throughout the game. The storm is very bad, but we'll get to that in a second. You have your rocket ship with a launch platform. You have your map tokens here, all turned face down so you don't know what's on them. You have your lightning rods, your large and small capacitors, your long and short wires, your equipment deck, your storm deck. You'll also have a difficulty card. Now, I like to choose normal difficulty. I'm used to this type of game, but I'm new to Forbidden Sky. You can have anything from novice to legendary difficulty, and it just determines the complexity of the structure you've got to build before the end of the game. Finally, you have this here, which determines the severity of the storm at the start of the game. 2 to 5 players. The less players you have, the worse the storm will be. I like to start with 4. I just think 4 players is a nice number for this type of game. So everyone familiar with this type of game will know that the first step, once you're all set up, is to choose your players. So you shuffle the player deck and then you deal out randomly according to the number of people playing. So I've got 4 people playing. I've got 4 characters here. Now each character has their own unique abilities that you will want to use throughout the game. So here I have the climber who, when he moves, can take any other pawn with him and he can jump over the clouds. So that's quite cool. I have the knotsmith who can repair the rope for 1 damage unit of any player on his tile or on an adjacent tile. I have the electrician who can lay down wiring without using a turn. And I have the surveyor who can give cards to any other player on their tile or an adjacent tile without using a move. He can hold 4 tiles rather than 3 and starts with 2 free tiles. So that's quite a useful one. So once you've drawn your characters, you'll then want to determine a play order. Just choose someone to go first and move clockwise around the table. So what can you do once you actually get started? Well, those familiar with this type of game will already understand the general layout of the rules. So each character will have a turn, and on their turn, they can take up to 4 actions. You don't have to use all 4 actions if you don't want to, but you can't use more than 4 actions unless you have an ability that allows you to do so. So what actions can you take in Forbidden Sky? Well, an important one at the start is the scout action. That's where you draw one of the map tokens and give it to the character. The characters can hold up to 3 map tokens and then they can't hold any more, they have to use them. The map tokens can't be discarded, so whether you like the ones you've got or not, they have to be played before you can play more. This is where the second move comes in handy, the explore move. This is the move that allows your character to place the map token that they've acquired. So you can place the map token facing any direction, but it must line up at least 1 wire with 1 wire on another token. Here we have a completed small circle. So that means that a small capacitor has been placed. The other tokens to look out for are these electrical symbols, which are your lightning rods. Or you could place these larger circles, which are your large capacitors. You'll also want to look out for the big red circle. That will be the launch pad for your rocket. It is the centerpiece of your entire structure, so choosing where to place it is very important. A third action you can take is for your character to wire up any 2 of the components. Now, components can have 2 wires coming out of them to connect them to other components, but the wires must fit. You have long and short wires, but if they don't reach, you can't connect those components. This is important because ultimately the wiring is what you're going to need to complete the circuit and connect back to your rocket ship. If you decide you made a mistake, you can use that action to remove any wire as well. Now, all these lovely components are going to be quite useless if the players can't get to the right squares to lay down the components. So that's where the final action comes in, the move action. Up, down, left or right. Players can move 1 square for 1 action. But in this particular game, you have to make sure that the players are able to move between the metal structures. So for instance, if yellow was here, they couldn't move to that square because this is open sky. They would need to go around for 3 moves to get to there. And that takes us to our cards. So if you see that symbol when you're placing a tile, draw an equipment card and you'll gain a special ability for 1 use only. And then end your turn after you've used your 4 actions and you'll have to draw a storm card. Now the number of storm cards that you draw at the end of a turn will be determined by this gauge. So at the start of the game, we're just starting with 1, but as the storm gets worse, you can go up to 5. What do the storm cards do? The first card you're going to look out for is the Storm Intensifies card. That means that you'll head over to your storm tracker and move it up by 1 level. The higher it goes, the more storm cards you have to draw each turn. The next card you look out for is the Wind Changes card. Now you'll notice a direction on that. That determines the direction that the storm will change to. So your wind tracker will move accordingly. If you draw the High Winds card, each character will be hit by a gust of wind in the direction the storm is currently facing. For the characters, this means that they will be blown 1 square in the direction the wind's facing in. But what if there are no squares in that direction? In that case, the character's going to fall off. But don't worry, they've got a rope. Now the rope will fray each time you use it, so be very careful. If it reaches 0, the character falls off and they will die. Worst of all is the Lightning Strikes card. Now when lightning strikes, every single lightning rod will be hit. If a character is connected to that lightning rod by wires, they will lose a health point. That is, of course, unless you see this symbol on their square. That's a Faraday cage and will keep them safe. So in this instance, lightning strikes. Green, who is on the square with the lightning rod, loses 1 health. Orange, who is connected by a wire, will lose 1 health. Yellow is not connected to the lightning rod, so they will not lose a health. And white is in a Faraday cage, so they are okay. Again, health is not unlimited, so keep an eye on your health marker, because if it gets to 0, the character will die. So in a nutshell, that's how you're going to play the game. Most importantly though, how do you win the game? Or more likely, how are you going to lose the game? So winning the game is actually quite simple. Remember, we said we have to follow this circuit. So this says that to win the game, we need to create a circuit that's got 2 large capacitors, 3 small capacitors, and 3 lightning rods. And here we have a circuit with 1, 2, 3 small capacitors, 2 large capacitors, 1, 2, 3 lightning rods. So once we place the final wire, the rocket takes off. So that's how you're going to win the game. But how are you far more likely to lose the game? Well, for a start, if any character dies, either by having their health go to 0 or their rope go to 0, game over. If your storm rises in intensity to the top level, every player will be swept away. Game over. But there is another way to lose the game, and it's a killer, so don't fall for it, okay? So always remember that the second you place that final wire, the rocket takes off immediately. It does not wait. The players must be on the launch pad, which is the 4 squares around the rocket. In this instance, the one who placed that final wire was yellow. Yellow wasn't on the launch pad. The rocket has left without him. Yellow dies and it's game over. So that's how you play Forbidden Sky. Now, I'll be realistic with you guys. Forbidden Sky is a brutal, challenging game. I haven't won it yet. You're going to lose more often than you win. So try not to take it too seriously. Enjoy the challenge. And when you do get to the level where you can actually win, why not set a harder difficulty level? Just keep having fun. That's what these escape games are all about.